Welcome back to Rise and Shine viewers. At this time on set with me, Mr. Martin George, attorney at law and a social commentator. Yeah, and this morning we are going to be discussing a number of important things, that are happening in Trinidad and Tobago. Right, we've been discussing things like the response to the PM statement on the falling oil and gas prices, like the porous borders, in Trinidad and Tobago. Right, but Mr. George, good morning and welcome to Rise and Shine.
Hi, good morning to you and good morning Tobago and Trinidad and Tobago and those listening in the wider diaspora, those who follow this program, wherever you are in the world, good morning to you.
Okay, our porous borders, I think we should tackle this one first. Right, information coming out of didn't emanate from Tobago Channel 5, but from another television station, goes like this, approximately close to 15 billion, I think it was 14 point something billion dollars illegal trade cocaine and other drugs passed through our region, mainly Trinidad and Tobago transshipment to Europe and the United States. And well noted was the number of murders that we are having, on a yearly basis, 400 plus murders, or close to that amount. And 70% of these murders happen by the gun, and Trinidad and Tobago do not manufacture guns. So let Tobago, let the world hear what is your take on, on these statistics and maybe some of the things that could be done, but we'll go on what could be done later, but let's hear your take on
yeah, sure, no problem. Well, the thing is, the first aspect I'd like to say is that I always like to keep my discussions Tobago-centered. In other words, while we always look at the scenario in terms of the larger picture of Trinidad and Tobago, I always like to keep our focus, make sure that we end up giving some positive solutions for Tobago. Because if you look at the larger picture, then you need to talk about things like the OPV contracts, which were cancelled, and then you ask yourself, well, what has been put in place to replace them? You've heard that the Minister of National Security has spoken about getting some vessels from the Colombians, but at the end of the day, none of this has materialized as yet. And one of the major factors which has created a difficulty and a deficiency in our marine patrols has been the dismantling of the Trinidad and Tobago Police Marine Branch. There is no functioning marine branch in the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service. Can you imagine any first world country having a police service, being surrounded by water and having no police marine branch? So that has always been one of the major factors, and don't care how many times that has been raised as an issue. You've heard them, mouthing all the correct phrases about trying to revive it. Nothing has been done. So that's the first step. So if we are to call upon the Commissioner of Police now to do something, the first step I would say to him, get the police marine branch back up and running, outfitted with your own vessels, your own personnel, and you take charge of that. Don't rely on the Coast Guard. Don't rely on, any other aspect. You as the police, you ought to have your own men out there in the water, because you would have your intelligence, you would be able to conduct your own surveillance. You don't have to rely on second-hand or third-hand information coming from, the Coast Guard or other arms of the defense apparatus. You would be able to deal with things directly. So that's one of the major problems we have in Trinidad and Tobago.
In other words, you are the police commissioner.
I am
and you should ensure that your service is outfitted with all the gadgets and
that's right.
services.
And I can tell you, in my capacity as a commissioner on the Police Service Commission, this is one of the things we have raised directly with the acting commissioner, and we've asked him what steps are being taken to reactivate the Police Marine Branch. He has indicated that he's working on it. Well, we sometimes get that answer and we get it again and again. So we are still waiting. But it's a major thing that needs to be done. In a Tobago context, I have said repeatedly, and I will say again, the THA needs to step up to the plate. In other words, when you look at the budget which is given to the Tobago House of Assembly every year, the allocation Okay, I mean, I know they sometimes say they don't get all that is allocated, but the allocation, that's on paper, the allocation is roughly about $3 billion. Okay, that's like $500 million US. So if that's your allocation, then the THA needs to set up a security commission or a security department. Right now, the THA, when you look at the list of secretaries and the persons that they have nothing to deal with security. Now, I think maybe they got confused because when you look at the THA Act, under the 5th schedule, it sets out the things that they can do, and then under the 6th schedule, it sets out the things that they cannot do. And under the 6th schedule, one of the things that the THA cannot be responsible for is national security. Now, nobody is saying that you are interfering with national security. We are talking here about island security. So, in other words, the THA can take responsibility to start beefing up things for island security. We're not talking about national security. We're not going into policies and programs for the nation. We are saying, hey, listen, we have the responsibility to manage Tobago. You've given us that responsibility. You've given us the money. Let us see what we can do, what we can implement to start looking after the security of Tobago. Let me tell you something. The safety, security, and serenity, and seawater and sand, those 5 S's, that's all Tobago really has to sell. And you could probably add service. So if we do not offer those things, people will not want to come here. So if we are not proactive in taking steps to ensure our own security, you had the incident that occurred with the 2 Germans, the Kiels, on Bacalet Beach. The point is there any patrol boat at all patrolling our waters at night? We don't have this kind of thing happening. What you have is a knee-jerk reaction, like for instance when former Minister Martin Joseph passed away, then they said, well, they tried contacting the Coast Guard for the Coast Guard to try and go on the scene. That's after the fact. We are supposed to have active patrols all the time because Tobago has so many little bays and little keys and little inlets. If you don't have any active patrol, then obviously it's open, it's an open Pandora's box for anybody to come in. So we need to ask our leaders in the THA, what have they done to start providing for the security of Tobago? It's very easy for them to sit back and blame the police service and say, well, we are meeting with the commission. All right, yes, fine. The police, they have their role to play. But what are you as the THA doing? What have you implemented? Have you set up a task force? Have you, in other words, have you hired a senior security consultant to start drafting a security master plan for Tobago? These are the things you need to do because the needs of Tobago are always very specific and different from the needs of Trinidad and Tobago generally, and you must recognize that.
Okay. Let's zero in on Tobago because I know you like to talk about us Tobagonians and our security, in particular Trinidad in general. The coastal boat, the boats that come here every 3 hours, they come in the morning, they would come 10 o'clock, 2 o'clock, 4 hours.
The Inter-Island Ferry.
Inter-Island Ferry.
Right, well, that's another area that I have spoken about repeatedly. When we're talking about securing our borders, and you're talking about the movement of arms and ammunition, you're talking about illegal narcotics, I have said repeatedly, the largest source of illegal guns and illegal narcotics coming into Tobago is right on that ferry. You have the absurdity and the patent stupidity, and I make no apologies for saying that, the patent stupidity of having a scanner and you are searching persons who are walking on the boat. Right? So you have a scanner where they pass through the scanner. So therefore you are doing that metal detecting search for persons who are walking through. But yet still a man could drive on with a van load of guns, a trunk load of guns, and you have no vehicle scanner, you are not searching the vehicles. What is the point of that? What, you expect to see somebody walking through the scanner with an AK-47 in their hands and you say, we've detected. Ask the Port Authority, how many guns have they detected on individuals walking through that scanner. Let's be serious. I'm sure they will tell you it's probably zero. So the point of it is that it's an absurd, silly system. You're making members of the public walk through this scanner, and you're not searching the vehicles. You have no scanner for the vehicles. So obviously, nobody's going to be walking through the scanner with an illegal firearm. They just put it in the trunk of a vehicle, drive on the vehicle, or they put 10 illegal guns, drive on the vehicle, and nobody's searching them, and they're happy. In fact, the driver of the vehicle doesn't even have to pass through the walk-through scanner. You know, he shows his driver's permit at the gate and he drives on. So that is the biggest source, and I've said it repeatedly. If you want to stop the flow of illegal guns and ammunition and narcotics coming into Tobago, start with that ferry. That's your first point of contact. You have privately undercover police officers on the boat. You're supposed to have vehicle searches or scanners to deal with that. You're supposed to be checking them when they're going on, checking them when they're coming off. It might be a little bit of an inconvenience, but at the end of the day, if we don't take active steps to secure our safety here in Tobago, and you see, I'll tell you why I keep focusing particularly on Tobago. At the end of the day, when one looks at the statistics and the international image, it's Trinidad and Tobago's statistics worldwide present a fairly bleak picture when it comes to crime. But I have always said, if we divorce the Tobago numbers and the Tobago statistics, we are not as bad as it appears in the national average. So we must always make that distinction. Even our detection rates are higher than Trinidad. So therefore, we have some positives that we can show the world, but we need to work on improving and making them even better so that people can feel that sense of security. You know how many Trinidadians come across to Tobago for a vacation because they feel safer? So we must preserve that safety and security. That should be the number one agenda of the THE. They are supposed to take the lead and show the island, well, look, this is our plan for your security. Instead, what you hear is them sitting back and blaming the police and blaming this one and blaming that one, or saying, well, we are going to have a meeting with the minister and a meeting. Come on, you have been given the mandate to lead Tobago and to run the affairs of Tobago. And I think the Assembly has failed. I'm sorry to say they have failed miserably on the job. When you look at them, they have not delivered for Tobago.
Okay. You know, I always like to look at television, you know, different stations and see different things. Mm-hmm. And I happened to see some time ago where the United States was, they just discovered that their shelves in the drugstores, in the supermarkets, and where, going dry, within a certain time that it shouldn't go dry. Let's say within 3 days instead of a week, right. 4 days. And they took steps to remedy that by purchasing another cargo ship. I think it was built in China or somewhere. But the capacity was 1.5 times the largest one that they had previously. And this ship, containerized as usual, but it was scanned. Everything on that ship was scanned to do a scanner.
You see?
You know, whether it's 500
and 500
so think
of the
hour.
capacity of that with cargo, and they are able to scan it. And you're telling me a small little ferry with a few people and a few cars and vehicles, and we are saying that we cannot scan this. The Tobago House of Assembly should take the lead and tell the Port of Authority and Ministry of National Security, hey, listen, we are going to partner with you to ensure that we get a scanner. Even if you don't want to put one in Trinidad, put it in Tobago at this end. So if you don't want to scan them when they're going on board, we will scan them when they're coming off. So in other words, listen, let me tell you, the scanner for vehicles is a drive-through scanner. So therefore, you let the vehicles drive through, you observe it. If you see nothing suspicious, they go their way. Yeah. If you see something suspicious, you say, okay, sir, go on this side, please. We just need to chat with you a bit. And the others go ahead. So it's a very simple process. It's not anything difficult. And this is why I keep saying we have accepted accepted for too long the failures of our leaders in the assembly, in that they've been able to pass the buck conveniently and not take proactive steps. Why is it that Tobagonians must be subjected to these things? Why must they? We have to be able to say, hey, listen, we've put you there to lead, or get out of the way.
Okay, well, we continue when we come back, Mr. George. We go for a break, viewers, and we return in a moment with Mr. Martin George. This morning we're talking about our porous borders and a little on the oil and gas lowering of those prices, the Prime Minister's statement. We go for a break and return to you in a moment. Welcome back to Rise and Shine, viewers. On set with me, for those of you who have now joined us, Mr. Martin George, eminent lawyer and commentator. So this morning we're talking about our porous borders and a little on the falling oil prices and its effect and so. Well, Mr. George, as we went on the break, we were in converse with the security with large containers, large volume of containers, and you were saying that. We have it easy because we don't have that amount of traffic, How easy do you think it is to obtain, the equipment?
Okay, I could tell you, we have a client in our Port of Spain office who has actually put forth a proposal to the Port of Authority several years ago for the drive-through scanners for vehicles. He got the suppliers, it's an Italian company, they specialize in this type of thing. He put everything, he put forth the proposal, he says, listen, this is something that is needed, and the Port Authority has been diddling. So that's why I'm saying the THA needs to take the lead. We in Tobago have sat back for far too long and kept saying, well, we are waiting on Trinidad, we're waiting on Trinidad. Come on, what are we waiting for again? You have a budget, you have allocations, you have money, you have the authority to do things. Let's get up and get things done and stop making excuses. Let us have discussions with the Port Authority, with the supplier, with the agent, and say, hey, listen, okay, Trinidad, maybe you all are not ready, but you see, us, we want this to secure Tobago for us. It's important to us. Maybe it's not important to you, but it's important to us. So let us see where we can help and facilitate having a scanner on this end. If you don't want to put a scanner in Port of Spain, put it in Scarborough. Once you come off that ship, you must drive through that scanner. We will check and see what you're bringing up. If there are any illegal guns or so, we pull you aside. The police are right there. They deal with you. Because I'll tell you, we keep fooling ourselves in Tobago thinking that, well, we are so safe. If you really get the numbers from the police as to the number of illegal arms and ammunition they have recovered in Tobago, it is going to be a frightening thing. And what they've recovered is probably just the tip of the iceberg as to what is really here. Because you have persons who, for whatever reason, have decided either to move their sphere of activity to Tobago, or they come to Tobago to lie low or whatever, but they do not come unarmed. They come with their, equipment. So therefore, we need to stop that, because when you have seen scenarios where persons are being held up at gunpoint, shot and killed, payrolls snatched, that's something that is alien to Tobago. But the point is, it is now becoming the norm because we have been allowing the illegal guns to come in. So we need to put a stop to it. And I am saying that if the authorities in Trinidad are not doing it, then that's why we have a House of Assembly. That's why we have put persons who have the authority to manage Tobago's affairs. One of the serious issues in Tobago now is crime, safety, and security. So therefore, we are asking our leaders, What have you done to manage that? What are you doing? What is your security master plan for Tobago? If you ask the leaders at the THA, they don't have any plan. They have not articulated any public document to say, well, look, this is what we are looking at from our perspective. This is what we want to achieve. We want to get this done, that done, that done. We have put this consultant, we have gotten this person. Come on, that's what leadership is about. That's what being in charge is about, where you foresee problems, as you said. Just look at that simple example where you say they're looking at their stock on the shelves and they notice, wait, this is depleting faster than we thought. So therefore, what do? Proactive planning. They say, well, look, we need a bigger import ship, much more capacity. That's what leadership and planning is about. It's not about, coming afterwards and, making excuses and saying, well, we are speaking to the commission or we're speaking to the minister. Come on, how long have you been speaking? How long are you going to just give us the talk and the rhetoric? When are we going to see results? You look around Tobago, you have scenarios where you ask yourself in terms of the infrastructural development of Tobago. Look at Scarborough, for instance, just as we're talking about the port. Just look at that area by the port. When you as a visitor come here, say for instance a cruise ship comes in, I sometimes feel sorry when I see these tourists. They're walking around in the hot sun. They're looking around. They're trying to figure out, well, okay, where do we go? What? You see some of them walking by the market. You see some of them, they walking down further, along the Milford Road. Then you see some of them, they're trying to walk up to the fort. They're trying to figure out, well, okay, what is here to do? Where do they spend their money? If you are basing your economy on tourism, then you must provide places for them to pleasantly be able to spend their money.
Well, one guy said that, asked the question, what do we have to separate them from their money?
But that's how I always say it. That's how I always say it.
These people work hard to come out here and they would not let go of their money easily.
But that's exactly the definition I've used repeatedly. I said tourism is the art of being able to pleasantly separate a visitor from their money in such a way that they enjoy it and would want to do it all over again. And they would tell all their friends, come to Tobago. But we don't have that. Instead, what we have is a scenario where we pay a panside or some little performing group to go down and perform for free when they're coming off the ship. What rubbish. You are supposed to organize a proper show where the visitors can pay you to go in, enjoy a well put together program, and they are so happy, they enjoy it so much, they're happy to give you a tip afterwards because you have given them value for money. That's what tourism is about. You go to any other Caribbean island, they know how to market the little that they have and to package it in a way that it's attractive to visitors. That's what we need to understand. It's about the marketing, the packaging, the promotion of your product. If you are not able to do that, then you will have 1,000 visitors come in and nobody spends any money because you have nothing for them to spend the money on. We seem to think that, look, just the fact that they've come here, they're supposed to just give us money. Tourism doesn't work that way. These people are often persons who are well-traveled. They may have visited other countries, so they know what standard to expect. Even on the ship, I could tell you, it's a much nicer experience than just walking around Scarborough. I could tell you, I've been on several of them. So I know what it is like. On the ship, they can package things. You get a Las Vegas-style show every night for free. Down in the theater, they have movies running, they have a children's playground, play park and stuff like that. We don't have any of those activities. So we need to understand what tourism really is about. Quite frankly, I have not seen any indication that the THA has a clue as to what tourism is about. They talk, they go to trade shows, but it seems they learn nothing because the ideas which you are supposed to implement, you see absolutely nothing of it in practice here in Tobago.
Okay, well, it's down to our Rise and Shine news break. So we go into our Rise and Shine news break, and when we come back, we'll open more line 635-1005 and 60. Okay, we come back with Mr. Martin George, discussing this morning the PM's statement on the falling oil prices and our porous borders. We go for a break and return to you in a moment. Welcome back to Rise and Shine viewers. We open our line 651-005, 651-412, but on set with Mr. Martin George, where we continue the discourse this morning on our porous borders and the Prime Minister's statement. Mr. George, the Prime Minister made a statement on the 8th of, I think it was the 8th of January 2015. Not rereading the budget, but we are adjusting the budget downwards. Okay, cuts were made to several ministries, or from several ministries. Nothing is being said about the Tobago House of Assembly, whether their allocation is being cut. But I want us to deal with how do you think it would affect the normal man, the man in the street, that worker who works for the minimum wage and so.
Well, first of all, I would say that having listened to her, I'm not sure that she actually made the adjustment downwards. You know, she indicated that the Minister of Finance would. And in terms of cuts from ministries, I'm not sure that she indicated any such thing. Subsequently, I think when the Chambers of Commerce, the Trinidad and Tobago Chamber of Commerce, the Tunapuna Chamber of Commerce, the Chaguanas Chamber of Commerce, the Princestown Chamber of Commerce, when they complained, then she said they would have the ministers explain what the cuts would be.
Okay, Mr. George, we have a call online. Caller, good morning and welcome.
Hi, good morning.
Hello.
Hello, morning.
Caller, good morning and welcome.
Yes, morning and welcome. You know, I'm listening to Mr. George this morning, and I would say that I agree with some of the issues, but some of it I feel that I want to share my disagreement. One is the fact that on the issue with the THA and the port, I think Mr. George knows fully well that the THA Chief Secretary has been making a lot of attempt in asking for the representation on the state board. As it is, the THA doesn't have a representative on the Port Authority, which can see some of these things put into action. I think that this is important and Mr. George should be able to address. And there are some of the things, of course, it needs funding in order to do those things. It's not just you could just go inside the port and put up all these things if you don't have that responsibility. So I seem to differ on that view. While I believe that the scanner is necessary, that is an expenditure for the port. And therefore, the representative who the state has, who sit as a Tobagonian, ought to be able to ensure that these things are put in place to benefit Tobagonians. The other issue I want to address, as I have you have Mr. George there, is that there is a flag being flown somewhere in his vicinity there in Bacalet. And I would want to ask him that in the night, it's a wrong protocol that the national flag is not to be flown in the dark, in the after 6 without being lit. So I ask him to correct that immediately. As a Tobagonian, we should know better. Thank you and good morning.
All right, good morning. Yes, in terms of the Port Authority, what we have heard is that the THA has said that they want a representative on the Port Authority board, and that's great. Of course, that's important. My point is that when you have the responsibility and you have an allocation of a budget of $3 billion every year, then if you look at what the cost of a scanner is, then it can be within your remit and your possibility to say, hey, listen, I I'm going to deal with this, and I am going to ensure that we have funding for the scanner. So if you come out and you tell the Port Authority, okay, look, we are going to pay for the scanner, then you now put the onus on the Port Authority. What is your excuse for not implementing it? So that's what I keep saying, that we can't just make excuses about things like that.
And in addition to that, I think we have a huge unspent balance account.
This is the point which occurs. You see, what happens, I'll tell you, we've gotten so accustomed to the excuses from our leaders that we have actually begun to accept it as the norm.
All right, Mr. George, we have another caller online. Caller, good morning and welcome.
Gentlemen, pleasant morning. Mr. George, we appreciate your articulation. I must admit, somehow I find the pointing of fingers not sufficiently impartial. I would have preferred your posturing to be sufficiently cognitive in terms of a neutral position. There is someone greater than you and I in terms of the overall administration called the central government. And they have been dictating to this island, I mean, with the level of arrogance and without thought, in my humble opinion. What I would like to suggest to you in terms of a question, how about, and I'm putting it to you, how about taking a more active role, as the previous caller suggested, a more active role whereby you can actually initiate action rather than be like me and like Colston. We are basically plaintiffs in the system, as you would put it in legal language. Have a nice morning.
Thank you very much. And no, I appreciate that call and that point.
Call. Happy New Year as well.
Yes, thank you. And no, the thing is, it's important, and what he's saying is true. In other words, we can't just sit talking about the problems and, as he says, pointing fingers, because we also recognize that there's a role that the central government has to play in facilitating things in terms of, some things you just can't get done without their cooperation and their consent. And I accept that, and in fact, I think in fairness to Mr. London and the THA, they have articulated that point repeatedly about things that they said have amounted to disrespect from the central government, non-cooperation from the central government, and I certainly give them that, credit for articulating those points. But what I'm saying is, apart from, okay, you complain about those things, my focus is always action-oriented, results-oriented. So if this is the problem, then, okay, yes, I will let you know that this is a problem. So in other words, okay, yes, we're not getting the full cooperation of central government. But then let's see how we can get around this and find a solution. So it's like the first caller when, he said, well, look, you have to get the Port Authority involved. Yes, I agree. But if it is that the THA were to take the initiative and say, hey, listen, from our allocation, we are going to provide the money to buy a scanner, and you make that public, you tell the public, look, we are presenting the THA with the port with a scanner. What then could the port say?
Okay, Mr. George. We have another call online. Caller, good morning and welcome.
Yes, good morning.
Welcome, sir.
Yes, I want to let the panel know that quite apart from all the talk about the THA and central government is not allowed to interfere with anything that the THA does here, because everything they call them obstructionists. Now, I agree with Mr. George. You must have innovative people to run your island. People just with that scanner talk. Let me make this point. I served at the level of the Port Authority as a board member for two terms. And for what I have been seeing taking place at the port, it is regrettable. There's no motivation for the security at the port in any way. Imagine you have all the security services on this country where you have female representatives or members of the security service are being promoted. Not one person is being promoted at the Port Authority. I worked there for 40 years, right? And you have junior people, men, you're only giving stripes to the men. Where is the motivation for the women? In the police service, you have a deputy commissioner of police, you have assistant commissioner of police. So there's no motivation at the bottom. And then you recruit a set of little girls, having them lime in with their boyfriends on the port when the morning come. No motivation for anybody to move forward. And the management of the port is mainly responsible for that. Aided and abetted in many ways by the trade union, because they condone a lot of nonsense that is taking place. And I believe that the THA does have a major role according to the 5th schedule, where they are responsible for air bridge and the seaport. And if they take matters to the government and they have funds to assist, mention it and tell the country that we are not going to, the government is not cooperating with me to have scanners, because I agree with Mr. George, the bulk of guns that coming in on this island is on the ferry, because there's no checks and balances, whatever. You have a security officer there who they call him a sniffer dog. This man has not been motivated in any way. You want to know how he's able to deal with these drug guys when they come off the boat and so on. And they have not promoted him, and they just have him there hanging in until he's 60, probably to retire. So these are little areas that the port and the management should look at. It's regrettable anyway. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for your contribution.
I must endorse
6351412.
I must endorse what that caller said, and in particular, even about that particular officer he spoke about. I know the officer, and he is, that man is a legend, and he does this really just out of his patriotic duty more than anything else, because he goes above and beyond the call of duty to try to ascertain and see who is there, who might be bringing things, who might be smuggling things, and he's actually quite successful. But the point is, you can't have him alone making the effort. You need a coordinated, comprehensive plan. And this is where we must call upon the police service, and we must tell the commissioner, hey, listen, on every sailing of the ferry, you must have 10 undercover officers. Another thing, on the ferry itself, you must post up, big and bold, all the pictures and photographs and sketches and drawings of the wanted criminals from Trinidad, because a lot of them use the ferry and come across to Tobago to hide. So, in other words, when they are walking onto the ferry, they must see their picture. They must be like, uh-oh, should I be going here? Because this is what you need. So in other words, let every passenger see those pictures so they could say, but wait, listen, that man in that poster, look him sitting across there. So your undercover officers are on the boat, so they just identify the person, they just quietly go to him, take him to a room. Listen, every sailing of that ferry, you could arrest persons who, whether it's outstanding warrants, whatever, you can do that. But the point is, we sit back and we talk and we complain and we don't do anything. So that's why we need to engage in this type of discussion so that the powers that be can do what is necessary to secure Tobago.
Yeah, one fella said not too long ago that he walked through Lower Scarborough on a particular day, and he saw 3 known guys from Trinidad. He knows wanted by the police in Trinidad. He saw them in Tobago. One of the police know them. And
how would they have come to Tobago? Either on the plane or on the ferry. It's as simple as that. So, in other words, you have 2 very small areas to monitor for wanted persons. Put up the posters at the airports, put their pictures up. Say, hey, listen, in Trinidad, you don't have big photographs. Oh, we are looking for these. If you see them coming off the plane, if you see them going on a plane, alert the authorities. Call 800 tips, call the police, call whatever. These are the things we need to do. And I'll tell you something. You just put at the bottom that, look, we are doing this in an attempt to keep Tobago safer for you and your family. So in other words, people will understand, I'll tell you, because initially you will have some persons who will say, well, oh, it's unfair to the wanted person that you have their picture up. But at the end of the day, you have to have the relevance of a social contract. In other words, security and safety is for the general good. So you might have a circumstance where you say, well, look, it might be a bit unfair to an accused person or a wanted person that his picture is up there, but you balance that against what is the greater good. The greater good is the safety and security of your island. And notice I keep stressing island. In other words, we can make Tobago safe. We may not be able to solve the problems of Trinidad and Tobago in terms of an overall national crime plan or crime statistics, but we can make Tobago safer. And I will not ever back down from saying that. And we need to stand up to that challenge and make it a reality.
What about the administration building in the port to post those pictures as well?
They can. That's another thing. In fact, I was inside that building the other day, and I was appalled that I saw persons having to sit on the ground and stuff like that. You had very long lines. They didn't seem to have, any facility. If you're old or disabled or aged or infirm, there's no. I didn't see any chairs in that general waiting area. Maybe they have in other areas, but certainly where you have the tickets being sold and where you have to line up to check in, I didn't see anything at all. And these are simple things which can be done for the benefit of Tobagoans. Another thing I've complained about repeatedly, have you ever been to any of the courts in Tobago, the magistrates' courts? You have hundreds of people just standing there like
corridor,
cattle, herded. I have complained repeatedly. Our Chief Justice is from Tobago. Better ought to be done. You cannot keep treating Tobagoans like that. At some point, they will say enough is enough. You can't have people standing up there for hours and hours and hours, just standing up in a corridor and, police officers telling them, move, step back, Provide proper facilities. There's no cafeteria for them. They don't have proper facilities. If somebody has a little baby, because you might have a young mother who has to attend court, maybe even to get a maintenance order or something, so she doesn't have anybody to see after the child. She walks with the baby. There's no little nursery, nothing. Come on, this is 2015. Tobagonians, open your eyes and see what the world has advanced to, and ask yourself if these conditions are acceptable for us in the year 2015.
Okay. Mr. George.
I'm sorry, I hope I didn't have you at a loss for words.
It's quite a mouthful.
Yes,
yeah.
No, you see, the thing is, when you're passionate about the development of your place and your island, you can't, that passion will always burn within you. And I think we have become a little bit lethargic and apathetic in that we have gotten so pressed down and beaten down that we think that this is the norm and it can't be better. And I keep saying we must have a vision for our future and know that there is a better way, there is a better place, there is a better method of doing things in Tobago. And once we see that and we begin to realize that, I tell you, we will be the best island in the world. I will never stop saying that. I will never stop believing that. I believe in Tobago and I believe in Tobagonians.
Sure. Sure, I see that passion every time you come on. Right, but we were talking about the oil prices, the falling oil prices.
And the effect on Tobago. Right, and when you look at that, that's another area where we should have been in a position where we would be able to in place. So therefore we keep depending every year on this subvention from central government, and without that subvention we really have no economy whatsoever. So that's what we need to start doing in Tobago, to develop that level of self-sufficiency where we can say, oh boy, sorry to hear things are not going so good in Trinidad, but you know what, we are going very good, we can help you. That's where we need to become in Tobago. That's where we should be heading for.
Okay. So Tobago should sit, very comfortable, or should have...
We should get to that
place. To that place.
So in other words, we need to focus on ourselves and stop thinking about waiting on a handout from Trinidad. If we develop ourselves properly, if we develop our industry properly in terms of our tourist industry, our service industry, and if we understand the value of that industry, tourism is one of the largest industries in the world. It's a multi-billion billion industry. If Tobago gets its share of that, I can assure you oil prices could fall to zero. It will not affect us. And that's where we need to focus.
Okay, we have our final call online. Caller, good morning and welcome.
Good morning.
Yes, good morning, welcome.
Mr. George, I have to compliment you with those last talks. It is very, very, very accepted. I'm a citizen of Tobago and also a small business dealer, and those things that you just spoke about and the wharf and the different places, we need some more acceleration in Tobago. Let them get up and try to even smarten up the Scarborough town. All these things, and they're just sitting. I just don't know what those 12 cabinet people are doing. They are not doing anything for Tobago. They are not doing it at all. We must try to help them. And if you can come there every morning and show them the point out the points. Look at the policemen. They don't have them in Scarborough. Just have them on a morning humbugging the heavy traffic. And the evening when the traffic is more heavy, nobody to regulate it, nothing. They need all these assistance. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, caller. And, you know, I just want to make the point, you know, it's not a matter of casting blame or casting aspersions or making criticisms, all right? Because I will tell you that for the years that, the present administration has been in the THA, they have made several attempts to try and improve things and do good. But what I'm saying is that, okay, we have been brought to this level, but we can be quite up here. So in other words, we thank you for bringing us to this level, but it doesn't mean that we will stop pointing out that we can do better. And I want Tobagonians to understand that that's the approach and that's the context. So it's not a question of, you know, just pointing fingers and laying blame. We accept that efforts have been made, things have improved to a certain extent, but I'm saying let's not sit back and feel comfortable and say, well, look, this is the best we can be. We haven't begun to tap the vast potential that Tobago has. You look at a place like Speyside. Listen, Speyside is such a dream in terms of if you were to develop Speyside properly. I tell you, Speyside could become a capital by itself just for the natural infrastructure they have there with that bay, and you already have one or two, you have Blue Waters Inn and you have a couple other guest houses and places there. But when you look at the spread of that bay, you have a beautiful developer, say for instance like Sandals Resorts, to put down a massive hotel there. Think of the employment, the industry, the agriculture. They will need to buy the fresh fruits and vegetables from all the farmers around, the produce in terms of mutton.
And the roads, we may have a super highway going to them.
But
for the roads
the point is, you would also have the facility to be able to develop a marina in that bay because it's a beautiful bay. You think of Parle-Tiver. That is such a dream, such a gem. But the point is, we don't even realize the beauty and value of what we have.
Parle-Tiver is the best of all.
This is what I'm saying. We don't even realize what we have. And that's why we really need to wake up and shake up. I tell you, Tobago needs that, you know. Yeah. Tobago needs a wake up and shake up, so that we begin to understand, because when you travel and you see what people are able to do with much less than what we have, then you realize, but wait man, we've been dreaming, sleepwalking, we're like zombies.
Yeah, we have it naturally, but the infrastructure needs to be there to complement that.
Every Tobagonian should be a multi-millionaire from the potential we have in this place. I'm telling you, there's no excuse for it.
Okay, Mr. George, we always have time constraints. We always have time constraints here. So I want to thank you this morning for commenting, giving your comments here this morning. I want to thank the public for calling and joining in the conversation. Yes. And we certainly invite you again. Viewers, we go for a break now. When we come back with Mr. Sherwin Cunningham, noted Calypsonian, and he'll be talking about the opening of a Calypso tent later this afternoon. We go for a break and return to you in a moment.
If we don't get rain, we had to buy water. Now that we're getting water from WASA, everything is a whole lot better. I'm really excited that we're getting water in here now, thanks to WASA.
Now that I have a constant water supply, thank you.
WASA, celebrating 50 years of service.